And Investigator Edwards, were you the lead investigator into the Tammy Daybell case for the Attorney General's office?
I was.
Can you tell us a little bit about what we are seeing on this slide?
So this is a timeline that I created when I came into this particular case. I came in late. We were April of 2020. And so in an effort to better understand the timeline and all of the information, I put it into a timeline chronologically to better understand what I needed to do. So this particular timeline starts in 2018 when Chad and Lori meet for the first time, and goes through June 9th, 2020, when Tylee and JJ are found on the Daybell property, with specific kind of highlighted areas throughout what I consider kind of major events, looking at the timeline.
And with that first event in October of 2018, why was that the starting point on this timeline for you?
I believe that's when this case really starts. I think that was the first recognizable event.
And that was when Chad and Lori met for the first time?
Correct.
And when we look at this slide, can you talk to us a little bit about these particular events?
So on October 26th, 2018, St. George, Utah, Chad and Lori meet for the first time. A few days later, on October 30th, 2018, we know that Chad does some Google searches and searches those particular things: Lori Vallow, Charles Vallow, and Lori Vallow photos. And at this time, Lori is actually living in Mesa, Arizona at the time. I think if you click one more, it'll show a yellow line. And so the slides that follow, and this one included, I have a yellow box or a yellow line that will kind of track along the timeline to show exactly where this took place.
And at the time Chad and Lori meet and these searches are conducted, do you know if Charles Vallow was still alive?
He was still alive.
And what about Tammy Daybell?
Yes, absolutely.
And then can you talk to us a little bit about these events?
Yeah, so if you can click one more, maybe. There it is. So during this time frame that's highlighted in yellow, on November 16th through the 17th, we know that Chad traveled to Mesa, Arizona for a Preparing the People conference, and he stayed with Lori in her residence. And this is just, almost less than a month from the time he'd first met her.
Judge, I'm going to object. Non-responsive.
Sustained.
On that November conference, how long had it been since Chad and Lori had first met?
Less than a month.
And it was your understanding Chad ended up staying at Lori's residence?
Yes.
And then that next date there, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
January 6th through the 10th, that Chad travels back to Arizona.
And was it your understanding Lori was in Arizona at that time?
It is.
And then that next date on there.
February 8th, 2019, we know that divorce proceedings were initiated by Charles Vallow with Lori.
At any point through the investigation, did you find any indication that Chad Daybell was planning on or looking into divorcing Tammy Daybell?
No.
And can you talk to us about this particular event?
So again, we're moving kind of down that timeline. March 19th to the 21st, 2019, Chad travels to Arizona with plane tickets that had been purchased by Lori.
And again, during this time, was Charles Vallow still alive?
He was.
And was Tammy Daybell still alive?
She was.
Can we talk about the first date here?
Can. April 2nd through the 4th, Lori travels to Idaho Falls. Shortly, you may click that a couple of times. There we go. May 5th through the 7th, both Chad and Lori separately are conducting internet searches for Malachite rings.
Do you know what type of rings? Well, let me back up. Do you know if Chad and Lori were ultimately married?
I do. And they
were
were,
they?
yes,
Do you know what type of rings they exchanged?
Malachite rings.
And then this last date here?
So on June 29th, Charles actually sent Tammy an email regarding her ongoing relationship with their spouses and actually requested contact from Charles. And the email, in quotes there, says, "Tammy, my name is Charles Vallows. I have some vital and disturbing information regarding your husband." Yes, ma'am, I apologize. Where do you want me to start? Tammy? All right. "Tammy, my name is Charles Vallow. I have some vital and disturbing information regarding your husband and my wife, Lori. I apologize to be the one sending this, but something has to be done. I feel it's best if I shed some light on the issue." Charles also sent Chad an email and confronted him regarding the relationship as well.
In relation to this email, through the investigation, were you able to determine if Tammy ever saw the email?
I was not.
And do you know when Charles Vallow was killed?
So he was killed less than 2 weeks after this email on July 11th, 2019.
And on this particular slide, can we talk about the first date?
Yep, on July 2nd, prior to Charles Vallow's death, Charles told Lori he was going to go to Idaho Falls to meet with Tammy. And Lori's text to Charles stated, quote, "She won't see you. She is my friend. She won't listen to you. Go ahead, you are ridiculous."
Through the investigation, was there any indication that Charles Vallow actually traveled to Idaho?
No,
And then what happened 9 days later?
Charles Vallows was shot and killed by Lori's brother, Alex, in Arizona.
And can you, starting first with the July 13th, 2019, can
Yeah.
you indicate who the message is being sent from and to, and read that message into the record?
I can. So this slide in blue is Chad and in pink is Lori. So the first one is July 13th, 2019. Chad sends a text message to Lori and says, "I'm heading to bed so that I can come snuggle tightly against you. I adore you. You are truly my best friend on earth and throughout eternity. See you in a minute."
And again, this is just 2 days after Charles Vallow is shot and killed.
Correct.
And then if you move to July 14th, if you would also read those messages into the record.
Okay, I'll start on the left, July 14th, 2019. Chad states, "I need so badly to just gently kiss you for hours." And then the time is 8:33 p.m. Chad again, "It would likely lead to other activities." Time is 8:34. Lori replies, "Likely or lucky," at 8:34. Chad replies, it would luckily lead to nakedness," at 8:35. Shift to the other side.
Yes, please.
Okay. July 14th, 2019. Know that Chad has written a romantic sexual story called James and Elena and sent it to Lori. Chad sends a text, "I love you, Elena," with heart emojis. "We have an amazing love story," sent at 9:54. Chad again, "Heading to bed and then heading to Lily. Can't wait to talk in the morning. You are fabulous." Heart emoji, fire, kiss at 9:57. Chad again, "Definitely loving you throughout the night. Fire emoji at 2:32.
And there's a reference there to James and Elena. Through the investigation, were you able to determine who James was in reference to?
It was Chad,
And who was Elena in reference to?
Lori.
There's also a name in there, Lily. Did you learn who Lily referenced?
Also Lori.
And then if we move to the messages on July 15th, if you could read those into the record.
July 15th, 2019, Lori sends a text message at 11:43. Taking off to Vegas, last ones on the plane, just making it. Wishing you were on the other side of this flight. Love you so much. And then 2 heart emojis. Chad replies, love you more. Keep me posted, my beloved angel, with a heart emoji.
And then looking at the next slide, can you tell us what we're seeing here?
Yeah, so as we move, again, kind of moving down this timeline, at July 18th, 2019, a text message from Lori to Chad, where she states, quote, so I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March. So it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. They can't tell me to who, of course, but it's done. I'll still get $4,000 a month from SS, believe to be Social Security, end of quote.
And were you able to determine who Ned was in reference to through the investigation?
Yeah, that next paragraph there, Ned is a name that Chad and Lori assigned using it in reference to Charles Vallows. Charles had a $1 million life insurance policy with Lori as the beneficiary, but changed the beneficiary to his sister, Kay Woodcock, approximately 4 months prior to his death.
And when you're reading that message, did it catch your attention?
It did.
And what about it caught your attention?
Clearly, this was something that was of importance to both of them, both Chad and Lori.
And then looking at the next slide here, are these additional messages that were recovered that were between Chad and Lori?
They are.
And starting with the July 18th, could you read those messages into the record?
I can. July 18th, 2019, Lori sends a text message. This is sweet. I miss you desperately. Heart emoji at 8:34. Chad replies, you are so adorable, beautiful, wonderful, heavenly, luscious, and angelic. So many divine attributes rolled into one dynamic, desirable package. I want you even more desperately than you want me. 2 kiss emojis.
And then the next one's on July 22nd. Can you also read those in?
I can. Chad sends a text message at 2:45 p.m. Love you. Going with Garth in an hour to see the other side of heaven too. Missing you desperately, but so excited to be with you. Heart emoji, heart emoji. Lori replies, you will love it, with a heart emoji. Chad replies, not as much as I love you, with a heart emoji. Lori replies, I love you. You will enjoy the scenery. Looks a lot like Kauai, a lot. Looks like Kauai a lot, with 2 beach emojis, I imagine those are. Chad replies with a smiley face. Lori replies, hopefully we will be there someday soon together. Chad replies, that is the plan, with a fire emoji. Lori states, and my greatest desire.
Was there something about these particular messages that caught your attention?
That's second to last one where Chad states, that is the plan.
We talked before that Chad and Lori were married. Do you know where they ended up getting married?
In Hawaii.
And do you know when they were married if Tylee and JJ were present?
They were not.
And then looking at this next slide, can you talk to us about that July 26th message?
Can. So this is a text message that Chad sent to Lori. That's a screenshot of what was extracted. It says from Bubby, to be Chad. Tonight I figured out who I feel like. I'm a grown-up version of Harry Potter who has to live with the Dudleys in his little space under the stairs. Every few weeks I get to escape and have amazing adventures with my goddess lover. But then I have to return to my place under the stairs feeling trapped. But I sense permanent freedom is coming, with 2 heart emoji, or rather 2 fire emojis.
And when this message is sent, again, was Tammy still alive?
She was.
And then was there anything else in relation to that message that stood out to you?
And the top one,
Yes.
the permanent freedom is coming is, again, like the previous one already talked about, the plan, permanent freedom, stood out to me for sure.
And at that point, was Charles Vallow still alive?
Oh,
And then if we can move down to that July 30th, can you read that text?
I can. July 30th, 2019, Chad again sends Lori a text message. It says, yes, quote, yes, we might need to release a little steam when we talk. Anyway, this is the chart that checks what percentages mortals are still in their body. It worked for my friend's wife who died, my neighbor, George Bush, Stanley Lee, etc. I kind of forgot about it because we've been dealing with zombies and demonic entities. But this afternoon, Tammy said she felt lightheaded, as if her body and spirit weren't connected. Goes on to say, quote, I got the inspiration to go back to my original death percentages that helped us track Charles, Ned, etc. Tammy is very close. Her percentage has fallen steadily since Hiplos left. It's encouraging.
Through the investigation, did you determine who Hiplos or Iplos would have been referencing?
I don't remember that.
And in this, did you notice whose death percentages are being referenced?
Yes, Tammy's.
And can you talk to us a little bit about what we're seeing on this next slide?
So August of 2019, we know that Chad again traveled to Arizona where he stayed with Lori. And on August 14th, 2019, Lori actually takes a screenshot of two wedding bands that she purchased from Serenity Rings. Same type.
And again, at this time, Tammy Daybell is still alive.
She is.
And on this next slide, can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here?
So this is also text message content on the far right between Lori, Zulema, Chad. On September 15th, 2019, Zulema travels to Rexburg under the Lori and Chad's direction. Zulema then assisted Chad in getting out of the house so that Lori and Chad could meet. And that's evident in the text message. The top one is a text message that's actually from Chad that is sent to Zulema from Lori, if that makes sense. But from Chad, he says to Lori, please have Zulema send a message to me that she's in Rigby and wanted to see if I could come listen to her talk tonight about her trip to Chile. Lori then sends a message again to Zulema. He wants you to send a text so he can come talk to us tonight. Zulema then sends a text message complying with Chad's request to Chad. Hello, Chad. I'm in Rigby. I want to see if you would come listen to me talk about my trip to Chile. Chad replies to Zulema, tonight? ? Zulema replies to Chad, yes, tonight. Chad to Zulema, I can be there at 7:30. Thanks. And then Zulema to Chad, awesome, see you then.
And then there's another note there regarding September 16th. What did you learn regarding September 16th?
That on September 16th, 2019, Chad, Lori, Alex, and Zulema travel to Mesa Falls and Island Park together.
And then looking at this next slide, can you talk to us a little bit about these messages?
So on October 3rd, 2019, there's a text message from Chad to Lori at 21:31 hours, which is 9:30 p.m. Good night, Angel Lily. So excited to go on our date. Fire emoji. October 4th, 2019, text from Chad to Lori at 0420, which is 4 o'clock in the morning. Dreaming of caressing you in bed. I adore you and Osholo you. Heart emoji and a fire emoji.
And were these copied over as found?
They were.
Do you believe that that message contained a typo?
I do.
And which word do you believe is not accurate?
Judge, I'm going to object. Calls for speculation.
Sustain.
Through the investigation, did you ever learn of any kind of a meaning of Usholo?
No.
And then on that final note there, can you tell us what that's about?
October 4th through the 5th, Chad urges Tammy to go visit her family in Springfield, Utah.
Through the investigation, did you learn if Tammy actually made that trip?
She did.
And can you now talk to us about the texts that we're seeing on this slide?
So during these texts, we do know that Tammy has made it down to Utah during this time, during these text messages. So the first one, text from Chad to Lori at 8:45 in the morning. Thank you for sending me that paragraph, beautiful Lily. I'm eager to see you soon. Trying to hasten her departure. I love you endlessly, with a kiss, heart, and fire emoji. Same day, Chad to Lori at 10:24 in the morning. Again, Tammy is still in Utah. It is dragging on here, but I should be to your house around 11:15. I want to talk to you first, of course. So maybe tell her I can talk from 2:15 to 1. And then a follow-up text from Lori to Alex, her brother, at 4:29 in the afternoon. Again, Tammy's still in Utah. Quote, we are supposed to go on a real date tonight, but we are discussing it. Perhaps an evening at home would be better, so we are not out and about. I'll let you know. But you could come and sing with us after your shower. Heart emoji. The last one, October 5th, 2019. Again, Tammy is still in Utah. There are 3 deleted messages on the Lori Vallow iCloud account from Chad. And those are going to be shown on the next slide.
And in relation to when Tammy was in Utah, do you know where Lori was living at that time?
At that time, she had actually moved up to Rexburg.
And do you know where Chad was during that time period?
Rexburg.
And if we move to this next slide, can you read these messages as well?
Can. These text messages were sent to Lori Vallow from Chad Daybell just days before the attempted shooting that we get into in the next slide, I believe. First one, hello, sweet
Judge,
angel.
could I have some foundation as to the date these text messages supposedly took place?
I think the witness just indicated that, Your Honor.
It's overruled.
The also, if we move that message just barely up, the date is time stamped on them. You'd have to go.
That skipped.
You'd probably have to exit this particular.
Can you see the
I can see the text. Yeah. They're going to be right around the same date at the bottom. So the first one.
and
Response.
Your Honor, I think if you look over to the right-hand screen, there's an indication on the slide of who the text messages went to and from.
Okay.
And Judge, could I voir dire a native objection?
Well, in lieu of that, the exhibit's been admitted. I think that's appropriate for cross. There is an indication, so I'll overrule the objection at this time. Ms. Blake, this is a lengthy enough exhibit. I think we are going to need to break for lunch before we get through it, and we're right at noon. Is there a time you think that's more appropriate to stop than now?
I had intended to just get through this slide and then stop, but if the court would prefer we stop now, we can absolutely do that.
Let's go ahead and go through the slide. That's fine. Thank you.
If you can read these into the record.
I can. First text message. Hello, sweet angel. Big news about Tammy. Please let me know if you are awake and can talk. I love you. And then 2 emojis. Shortly after, the short version is that she has been switched. Tammy is in limbo, and a level 3 demonic entity named Viola is in her body. It happened about 10 p.m. and was done by Tammy's sister, Sam, who I always knew was 3D, but it turns out she's multiple creation. Next, quote, Viola has been attached for about a year to my niece, Danica, who is Sam's 12-year-old daughter. I have connected with Tammy in limbo, and she is very frustrated and upset. She wants Viola removed as soon as possible. Viola seemed to be similar to Penelope. The personality differences from Tammy should be evident quickly. Please seek a confirmation on this, but I have checked 3 times since I got home and get more affirmative answers each time. Next quote. Sam is much like Brandon. She has been my biggest enemy over the years. She refuses to read my books and threw the biggest fit when we moved to Idaho. She has only visited us when the kids got married and always fled Idaho within hours, like she was being burned. She's definitely comparable to Brandon and Summer. The last text, not fully sure of the timing for removal, but once her actions verify the differences, I don't want to wait.
And Your Honor, if we would like to break for lunch now.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. We'll take our lunch recess at this time. Come back on the record if we can at 1 o'clock, please.
All rise, please.